glad we're all here. I don't think Chris is joining us today because I don't think he's working with the sound team, and we're kind of in a holding pattern until we hear back from somebody. So yeah, it's been a crazy week for me. Matt, I don't know if you got a chance. Did you ever get a chance to look at last week's video?
I did not.
Okay. A lot of my work last week centered around the menu system, the UI system.
Okay, I did see your post in the discussion thing on Discord.
Yeah, did you happen to check out the link to the Unity file or the Unity Asset Store link?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, whenever you get a chance, take a look at it. It's this really cool little Unity package asset for creating really science fiction looking snappy UIs. Mm-hmm. And my idea was we could buy that package and then customize the shit out of it. So this week, let me show you what I've been working on this week. Yeah. Let me know when you can see my stuff.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, so I've been working on just customizing the menu for this game. We've had so much discussion. Justin's mentioned over time that we need a more modern solution to the menu.
Right.
So this is like a mock-up of the splash screen, of the loader screen, if that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. This little spinner, and Matt, I put these up on Zeppelin, and I put a link to the little spinner. It's just a PNG sequence.
Okay.
And I did the same thing with, there's an animation associated with the Colony Wars Redux logo. It looks like metal, but then I have like layers going across it, and I put a PNG sequence link there too.
Is it like a shiny metal thing?
Yeah, exactly. You and I, when we get the Unity package for the UI, you and I will have to look at it and see how we actually customize it. Mm-hmm. But this is the mock-ups of what I have so far. So here's the loading screen, and I even had the idea if we can do PNG sequences in the animation in the UI, we can have the spinner going, the metal effect across the text, and even in the background a little bit of animation. You know, I could export 70, 80 frames that could just loop in the background. So that's the splash or the loader. Here's the main menu.
Wow, that looks sick.
Yeah, that looks pretty good.
Yeah, I like this. And it's pretty straightforward, right? Like, we have campaigns, we'll put a multiplayer, a database link, and options. Now, in the demo, half the shit is just going to be grayed out. You'll probably be able to put the cursor, the selector, which I'm calling this blue thing, we'll be able to put the selector on the text that doesn't go anywhere, but it'll be grayed out. Maybe we'll put a sound effect in. So initially, I imagine all that's going to be there in the demo right now is being able to select campaigns. And in the options menu, we might have a breakdown, like a picture of the controller, and just show what buttons do which. I don't know how many options we're going to have in the option menu just yet.
Is this going to be a static background?
No, it's going to be animated.
Nice.
So my goal is if we can incorporate PNG sequences, that's just what we're going to do. I'm going to animate things in After Effects, and I'm just going to put it in a PNG thing. We don't have to put any 3D models or anything that complicated into the menu system.
Well, for the planet, though, are you planning on having some sort of rotation or something?
Yeah, very subtle, maybe even just a loop.
Right.
It's cool to see one of the ships, like, in the background, like, you know, like with the Earth. I don't know.
Like,
yeah, we can use 3D models.
No, I was thinking like spaceman, that would be orbiting, you know, like in orbit, but not exactly, you know.
That might be what we do. What if we put a static background with the image, but we animated one of Dan's 3D models slowly cruising from one side of the screen to the other and then back?
Yeah, that could be good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We'll have to try a bunch of stuff. I mean, like that. Like if it's a static background, or even better, if the Earth was in the actual model, the ship could come out from behind and like orbit around the text, and then like you just sort of slowly see it. There's lots of things, but no, it looks great. I really like it. I think the composition's open. There's not a lot going on. It's more like just get on with the game kind of style.
Another reason why I like it being open like this is we're going to have to support multiple screen aspect ratios and resolutions. Some people are running true 4K, some people are running 1440p, and then think of all the people that are still running 1080p. And if with an open canvas style like this, it's easier to accommodate all these different aspect ratios. So that's half the reason I thought of doing it this way. So from here, when you select campaigns, what I saw in my head, now obviously, so this tool, Zeppelin, this is the tool I use to give UI designs to developers. And one thing it doesn't do animations. So Matt, you and I are going to have to like work ad hoc to get these animations down. Because I imagine when you click campaigns, this next screen fades in. It doesn't snap. And it transitions. And the reason why I want it to do that, so this is the campaign selector. We have three, once this is done, we'll have 3 games to select here in the campaign selector. And so what I've gone ahead and said is, what if we call the first game just straight up Colony Wars? We call the second one Vengeance, and we call the third one Reprisal. And the idea is, when you go into campaigns and you start selecting one of these options, this background responds to your selection. And it responds by showing a kind of faded out mock-up of the main menu of that game. The first 2 games in Colony Wars had very memorable backgrounds, very memorable menus, that they were really shiny and pretty and bright and neon colored. They didn't function all that well, but I want to keep some of the colors. What we're creating here is we're trying to build the thing you think you remember playing. And I'm confident I can do that if we can ease the user into it rather than having screens snapping back and forth, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I like what you said about the thing that you think you remember, because sometimes when you go and revisit things from your past, from nostalgia, you're like, why did I ever?
Yeah, like how did this ever make it past QA? Yeah, like the menu systems for the original game are memorable in the way that they look, but functionally they're broken.
Oh yeah, dude, I have a story about that. Like I used to play GoldenEye like crazy when I was young, dude. I was so good at it. And like fast forward like 15 years later, I played with a bunch of people at a cabin, and I just sucked, dude.
Yeah.
And of course, I talked myself up before.
You all were
I
just
couldn't get it, man.
slappers.
Like, the game, it was horrible controls.
Yeah.
Absolutely abomination. Like,
Yeah.
Those fucking N64 controllers are just like nasty. Like, I don't know. Like it's like, what? How do you like?
It's funny how that works, but it's interesting. So years ago on the Xbox 360, they re-released Perfect Dark for the N64. And it was almost identical, just with slightly upgraded models. But the models and textures that had been upscaled were only upscaled so slightly that you don't even realize it when you're playing it. You think that's what you played on the N64. And that was good. And the Crash Bandicoot remakes I thought were really good. And so that's what I'm trying to do here with the menu system. So the idea of this selector screen, when you're selecting a campaign, the background becomes almost like this lowered opacity version of the menu, so that when you go into it, like I don't have the next screen mocked up, but once you selected Vengeance, these stripes and this subtle blue background would then, they'd be at 100% opacity. Right now they're at 55%. They'd be at 100% opacity. And then your menu here on the left would be only Vengeance related, like start campaign or load campaign or any one of those things, or even eventually a level selector. We're going to have to create a level selector because we're no longer saving to a memory card. We're just saving that you completed a level. So once you've completed it, you should be able to go back and play it, especially if it's one with a branching mission. So this is what I've been working on. And like I said, I have an animation, a PNG sequence for the logo. I have a PNG sequence for the little spinner. And I think everything else in here, the code we can get from that Unity asset package. And then it's just a matter of customizing it.
Yeah, I like the UI. It looks good.
Yeah. Cool. So that's what I've been working on. What's everyone else been up to?
I worked on a couple of the ships, and I got a lot of them to look like they've been destroyed. And I got I'll show you guys.
Yeah.
Sure.
I was seeing through the week, I was seeing your updates to the Discord, and holy shit, does it look good.
Thanks, appreciate it. Can you see it?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, so I have all the ships lined up, and just to have a scene of my own, so I have control of it, and I don't have to upload and break anything. So I'll start with the first one. So here it is. The ship itself looking all nice. Nothing wrong with it, and then bam,
boom.
And so I didn't really know how to break it up. I kind of wanted to keep it in piece, like certain pieces of it. So
yeah,
it's like all one chunk. Oh wow, I got little polygons I need to delete on that. Oops. Okay, very nice. Gotta clean up. And then I decided to like break it off in the middle of the front, and then this part flies off and all the chunks, and I have all the materials and everything where they should be. And it wasn't like it was fun like doing this. It was revisiting something that I just finished, and then it looks good. Like I'm pretty happy with how it's all being able to be disruptive and everything.
It looks great.
All that, it's getting there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I finished up the damage for the other ship, the tribe gunship that we have. Yeah, I decided to break it off in odd places, so I thought it'd be kind of cool for it to like crumble but crush apart, and it breaks apart, so these things will be flying everywhere, and then it splits into many pieces because it's really dense. Then I did the other ship, and this one I didn't want to just I wanted to break in half, and I did it in thirds. Like the engine, I imagined that the engine would combust.
Yeah, break off from the housing breaks off from the superstructure.
Yeah, and then I thought would be cool was that I didn't want to break it off again, so I made these little chunks that come off. And so I made a little funnel and I booleaned it, cleaned up the edges and everything, and just kind of pulled it out.
Yeah.
And it turned out really good. So yeah, I'm really happy with this one. Because it's sort of more of an exploding, but grenade kind of thing rather than crumbling.
Yeah.
And then we have the original, the ship that breaks into little pieces now. Yeah. And I was experimenting with particles. I didn't really get that far in it. I just wanted to see if I could, and I was able to shove something in there doing the particles. Nothing fancy. It's just the most deep. I just threw it in there to see if I could have something. So I'm gonna try to go for some particle effects, and I'm gonna make some cloud things as soon as I get my graphics driver fixed and some video. AMD.
Yeah. Because in the original, as the enemy ships took damage, they would start a flame particle effect would come out of them.
Oh, cool! Yeah, it'd be cool to do like a particle that would emit debris. So it's breaking off as it's flying.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, we have a debris model. We use it right now in the current build.
Okay, great. Yeah, then we can implement that for sure. Because I was looking at I was messing with the idea that you told the kids. So I was looking at the ship and I sort of felt like it's kind of this cool low effect that we did and everything. And, they look good on all the other ones. You kind of need something, something that's flickering or and then Yeah, so I did the ships and everything. I need to go for this one. It's my last one because it's like you gotta figure out how it's put together, and then Slice and Dice do the same thing. So
Yeah.
shouldn't be that. And then Power Cell, you know, looks great as always. Nothing damaged about it. So that's what I did over the week and all that stuff. And
yeah, this looks great. This all looks freaking incredible. Now we just got to figure out how to do that volumetric lighting effect. So when they take critical damage, we see the light shining out of their cracks first, and then the explosion happens and these chunks spread apart.
Yeah, that shouldn't be... what Matt posted would work. I think we just need to, like... All we gotta do is just, like... get the texture, and then I think we could just animate a bunch of, like... snaky planes that will, you know...
That's definitely one way. I feel like now there's an automatic way. For instance, I know that when in Unity and Unreal, when you create like a terrain map and you put in like clouds in the sky, it'll automatically generate God rays. There's gotta be some similar way to emit like God rays from a light source. So we might not need to build
HDRI kind of stuff. Thinking about that. Actually, give me an idea. Is it possible to animate emission in Blender? Like, if there's a way I could like add keyframes to like the...
Yeah, maybe. You might be able to do it with just
for the damage texture and everything. It's got an emissive texture that gives it that glow. So
right.
It could be like toggled on or off or fluctuate, giving a little bit more life to the flames.
Like a smoldering effect almost.
Yeah, and it can be done, you know, just by turning it on and off slowly, you know, linearly.
Yeah, you could use like a sine wave function for that with like some different clouds, like rendering the emission.
Yeah, no, you totally could. That makes a lot of sense. Yes, indubitably.
That's funny. That looks great, Dan. That's awesome.
And yeah, I would have gotten more things done, but I'm struggling to get my computer back in order. Don't ever update your graphics card.
Not if you have a Radeon, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I'm really glad you guys all still wanted to meet today, even though we are all probably up to our eyeballs and other things. None the least of which is preparing for Christmas, so or other holidays for us. But yeah, cool. That looks great. Who wants to go next?
I can go next.
Okay. Yeah. There you go, Matt. Okay, I got your screen up.
Okay, so I didn't have too much time today, so I'm going to show you what I did in the game, and then I'll hand it over to Justin, and then I want to show you one thing after that.
Okay.
I did project up for that.
Okay.
So I worked on getting the targeting working for the defense pod.
Ooh.
Let me do this here. So I did notice a problem with my old targeting system.
Mm-hmm.
So I was determining whether or not something could be targeted by whether or not they were visible by the renderer. But the problem with that is that when you have a ship that is made up of multiple pieces, what I found was happening, it was picking a piece, and then you wouldn't be able to target that object if that piece is being called around the other side of the ship. That makes sense.
Okay.
I don't know why the UI is not displaying correctly right now. Let me see here. You see, I'm missing my UI.
Oh, you are, yeah.
It's weird.
That is weird.
Let me see. Did this level change at all? Because it used to be a bunch of. Am I in the wrong level?
You may be in the wrong level.
Regular test environment test 2? Because it used to have a bunch of allies and a bunch of enemies.
Yeah, hold on. There's a few. Okay, I'll tell you what to do. Ooh, Go to the managers game object.
I don't think I did. I still have to update this though, so I don't know how it. That's odd. Okay, managers.
Yeah.
Level controller.
Are you in the which?
This is weird. Okay, hold on a second. Let me.
There should be like 2 other level controllers in here. I'm not sure what version you are in. What scene are you in?
That is weird. Hold on a second. Let me see here.
Yeah, go to your scene list.
I have a ton of scenes. What's the name of the scene?
Let's
Test
see.
environment 2?
I renamed one, so it's just called test environment. Do you see that?
I have regular test environment.
I like
How
that one.
far behind on the builds are you on the
Just
collabs?
today. Oh, this is odd. Okay.
Let's see.
Well, maybe give me a second. I'll see if I can relaunch it, and if I figure it out, I'll let you guys know.
All right, I can just show what I have then.
Yeah, exactly.
Go for it.
All right.
All right, so to avoid this, I actually, 'cause I know like last week we had a few problems with Unity being weird.
Yeah.
So I just recorded what I wanted to show, and then I'm just gonna show that instead of actually opening up Unity because Unity just doesn't like to cooperate sometimes.
Okay.
Let's see. All right,
Are
here's
we all having computer problems this week?
Yeah, everyone's having computer problems. It's
right.
infrastructure decay.
you see this?
Yes.
Okay, so what I've been basically doing, I'll just leave this video running, is I've made a system. This was one of the biggest weeks for me about being able to work on something, and it's also one of the smallest changes. It's just like the change that I made is very, very complicated and took a very long amount of time to fix.
Yeah. Oh, you got the UI thing working.
Yeah, that was one of the things I was going to
that's
show you.
Oh. That's awesome.
Well, that's good. That's good that it's in here. I don't have to.
Yeah, I guess it is.
It's funny, as a non-programmer, that's what impresses me.
But yeah, you're probably not going to be impressed by the thing that this is actually doing, but what it's doing is the enemy, you see it's spinning right there. It's basically trying not to look at the player at a certain angle, and the way it does that is I have a little diagram I've set up. Let's see, in Paint. Here it is. Can you see this Paint screen?
Yes.
All right, so the player is in red. They are trying to look at an angle to the we'll just call this the agent in blue. And the player basically creates this sort of range in red, which makes it so the thing in blue can't look at that range. So the thing in blue is looking at that range with this little area right here. That's where the agent wants to look. What I've been working on is making it so the area in blue is corrected to this area in green right here at the edge of the red area. And the thing is, so this is it in 2D. It's very simple in 2D. If you make it in 3D, this is like a sphere.
That's really cool, the dotted line to give it dimension.
Yeah. And so this red area is basically that range. This is extremely difficult to do, and actually is like things that they don't really have solutions on the internet. So I had to make a really weird solution to it. But what it does is that, in summary, an AI is never going to look at another AI if it's really close to them, if at a certain point. So what that means is that, like, if I am running towards you and you want to look towards me, you are correcting your own perception so that you can't look at me physically. So the your angle is adjusted to like the right of me. So you're not looking at me because I have barred you from looking directly at me. So that sort of range is in this video what I've described.
And that does is give a more realistic chase scenario.
Of course, this AI is never going to look at the player basically when they're this close, because if they look at the player, then a collision is a lot more likely. You know? So it's doing a whole bunch of math to basically say, I want to look at this position. If that position is sort of colliding with the player, then just don't look over there. Look somewhere where they won't collide.
Yeah.
And was having good car insurance.
Yeah. And so that's just that was a lot. But it also doesn't look that impressive. So
no, but that's so important though. Something that it's sad that sometimes you do a lot of work and the effect of which is nearly imperceivable. It just adds to the overall believability of the experience.
Yeah, it really does add a lot. Like the chance of a collision is so drastically lower because of this. And it's like a thing where what was the event in the 2000s where the clocks rolled over to the
Y2K.
Y2K.
It's like a lot of people don't think Y2K was a thing, but it actually was, and it cost like millions to avoid, and it's just like, oh, nothing happened, so it must not have been a problem. But yeah.
Exactly. Perceivable. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you'll see there in the video that was a really close angle. That was a really close turn, but it wouldn't have hit the player because it figured out that was the angle that it was impossible to hit the player at.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
we're not gonna see any wonky like flying, you know.
yeah, hopefully not.
Because that was something, even in the original, the AI occasionally would bump into things, and it really brought you out of the experience.
Mm-hmm.
How many ships are gonna be in like all at once? Because I know in the Colony Wars, from what I saw, was that it was pretty small. Like you weren't really shooting a lot, but
right,
they
have came
more
in
room.
Waves, and there was no more than 4 or even 5 bad guys in a wave, and that was mainly due to limitations of the PlayStation. So that's something we can revisit.
Yeah, I was thinking that'd be really cool to have like a really gigantic battle where you're just swamped and you're just like trying to make decisions on what you're shooting.
Yeah, I'm testing this environment with like 8 different things, so it's just to see the bounds of it. So if it can work in there, it can work on literally any environment. What I'm showing right now on the screen is I also added this week the ability, like a sort of center of the level, in the sense that ships don't want to get too far away from the center, and if they do, they'll turn around and go back. If there is a frigate, like there is right now, then they will treat that as a level center. So if they get too far away from the frigate, then they will turn around and just move back towards it. You can see that's happening here. They're all sort of crowding around this.
What
this
happens
frigate.
when the frigate's destroyed, though?
Then it will treat whatever position the frigate was last at as the level center.
Okay. And how does that affect the player? We still have to find a way to encapsulate a player, not to let them travel past a rendering distance of other objects.
Well, we could do things like this where, since the center of this AI can be moved around, we could have missions where, the smaller ships will target one ship, and once that's destroyed, they'll move on to the next objective. And that could be like another freighter or the center of the map and all that stuff, And during the time that ship is destined to have enough life to make it to a destination, by level design, you move the player back, and then now you got to haul your ass back to the other place to try to do something else or save something. So we can have an effective moving the player around like this, and having the AI move around too. You'll soon realize that you're by yourself, and I wonder why. Because they're moving on to the next target or something,
Yeah.
I think I was playing the original Colony Wars a little bit this week, and I think that it doesn't stop you from going too far, does it? It just sort of lets you, but you would have no motive to go that far if you just kept driving forward for 30 seconds, then it's not going to prevent you from doing that. It's just there's no ships that follow you or anything. There's no objective over there, so then you just have to turn around and go back to where the start of the level is for 30 seconds.
My impression with the original 2 Colony Wars was that you were inside of a sphere that determined the furthest from the center of the game world you could go. Because I don't believe the objects, like the planets and stuff, were in a skybox. They were physically in the same world you were in. And when you got to the boundary of that playable sphere, it wasn't like your ship stopped and you couldn't go forward. It's that your ship stayed in one place and just had the illusion of continuing to move forward.
You're like bumping into a wall constantly, but it looked like you're going forward.
Yeah.
I could do that. I could totally do that. That's not that difficult.
Simple.
Yeah, that's what I imagine we would do. We don't ever want the player... It's cool that the AI now knows, okay, stay within a relatively close distance to this single object. But the player, if they're just screwing around or they drop the controller or something, they're just testing, see how far they can fly. We need to set a maximum radius that they can get away from the other objects so that if they head off in one direction for 15 minutes and then turn around, it doesn't take them 15 minutes to get back to the battle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way I would imagine we'd handle it.
Yeah, I could do that this week.
Okay. Cool. Okay, well, Justin, that looks great. That's incredible. I almost wonder if that kind of stuff, you could publish some of that code out onto the Unity asset package store yourself and make some money that way.
Oh, I wish I could. I mean, the way I figured out is like, it's basically approximating where that edge of that range is, but it does it in a very cool way. I don't think the actual solution to find the exact edge of that sphere that exists out there, because I spent a lot of time researching. For a 2D circle, to find that radius, that's easy. It's like a single calculation. But on the 3D sphere, it just like that doesn't exist.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Well, then that all the more reason to possibly upload it to the asset store.
Maybe I will.
Maybe I will. Cool. Okay, Matt, were you able to...
Yeah, so I ended up opening the project up again and everything worked fine, but since you saw what I was working on in Justin's video, I'll just move on to the other thing. So I had that reticle switching thing.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's so cool.
And then the targeting for the defense pod. And then I got a chance to work on the shader idea that I had for the decals. Now, this isn't the decal system, it's just the material that would go on that stamp or whatever, right? I figured that this might work since we do have a texture that's being kind of stamped on the objects as decals. So the one other caveat with this is that it is using shader graph. I don't know what our render pipeline is in the other project. I didn't get a chance to look at that. Are we using like the universal render pipeline?
I believe so, right, Dan? That's what we spec'd out.
I chose the universal one because it seemed to look the best out of all the other exports.
So I should be able to import shader graph from the package handler. So hopefully that'll work. I'll make sure I don't upload it unless it's working. But here's the shader. So here I just have it on a plane. And if we look over here in the inspector, you can see all of the properties that I have available here. I have a radial fall off that you can change with the radius there. And that's clamped within a range. It's a 0 to 1 normalized range. And then I have the amount of edge hardness that you can have on this. So if I really want a hard edge here, I can pump that up all the way. If I want a real soft edge, I can go the other way. And then the textures that it's going to take is going to be your hull texture. So this is, you're going to want to make this to match the damage mask that I have here, because I imagine this would be like curled up metal, right?
Yeah.
And then underneath that, I have masked out a damage texture, which was that cool tileable texture I would think that you were working on, Dan.
Yes.
And then below that, you just assign the mask that you would take from that ripped up hull texture.
That's cool.
That is cool. Yeah. That's really cool.
So I don't know if we can just easily just swap this material out for the material that's being used for our decal object. So that would take some testing. It'd be cool if it worked.
Yeah, I'll look into it and see if it works.
Okay. Yeah, that's it. Oh, you can change the position of the circle here, but I don't know if I want to keep that available, but it's probably best to just have it directly in the center of this little card here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's awesome. That looks great. So then, Dan, we know what to do with the materials, right? We need to... The whole texture is just going to be the default for whatever spacecraft it is, right? Oh, he stepped out. I didn't even see. Anyways, never mind. Okay. I mean, it looks great. It looks absolutely great. So it sounds like then what I need to do is just continue with the main menu UI design. And Matt, I need to get you that Unity package. I can make...
Yeah, where's the timeline for all that? Because I still got a ton of weapon stuff to do, really. And UI, like HUD stuff, like, because the HUD changes and stuff when you're like targeting like your missiles. I think like your missile icon turns yellow or something, and then like when you commit it, it turns red.
Yeah.
Things like that, right?
The timeline on it isn't anything pressing. It's just I want to make sure it's in our dialogue so that when we actually get to using it, it doesn't come out of nowhere. So that if you want to focus on HUD, I'll focus on the design and we don't need to worry about the code just yet.
Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking HUD, just weapons. We got to get these weapons wrapped up, right?
Yeah.
We still have the defense pod to figure out. I don't know if that's something involving the AI. Is that going to be a little AI entity that,
I would imagine it would almost have to be, right, Justin?
Or is that a projectile? I mean, I can have a projectile like fly to the ally and then latch on to the defense pod position on the model. And then maybe we adjust stats on the intelligent agent. Is that what's going to happen when the defense pod is on it? I mean, I don't know what the defense pod does once it's actually latched onto the ally.
Defense pod in the original, you target something like a missile, you fire it like a missile, but once but you can only target friendlies, and when it comes within a certain range of the friendly, it then sort of goes into a random orbit around the friendly and then starts behaving like a friendly AI, where it'll shoot at enemies that come too close. And it stays in that state where it's kind of slowly orbiting or flying around the friendly and defending it. It stays doing that for something like 2 minutes before it returns to the player like a missile.
Okay. So, Justin, is that something you want to tie into AI, or is that just a fancy projectile on my end? Because I could go either way.
Yeah, it sounds like more of a fancy projectile. AI is more thing. I think we should rephrase what I'm doing not as just AI, but multi-step AI, in the sense that they have different actions that go into. They have actions that go into different actions based on different parameters. It's not so much what you're describing is really just the update function for this pod is that if it's latched, it finds the nearest enemy and shoots its own projectile at them.
Yeah, it's not a state-driven.
No.
System. Right. Yep. All right.
Cool.
Dan, number 1 or number 2? No, I'm just kidding.
That's awesome. I like your horns, Dan.
Thanks. Yeah,
I
it's
like that
really
you
good.
upped the ante from last week's leopard skin Christmas hat to...
I never wanted to, it turned out really good, like the way I printed them out and everything. I have like...
they're corkscrewed, yeah.
Yeah, they're corkscrewed and they twist, so they have like things. And so, I put them together and I was like, oh, I'm celebrating Krampus!
It's Krampus. That's funny. Oh my god, that's funny.
So I'm gonna wear these to my holidays.
There you go.
So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Good job.
All right, guys. Good hustle, even though this was a hard week and this week of Christmas. Like, we all have other responsibilities. Don't kill yourselves trying to get all this done the week of Christmas. I mean, that's ridiculous,
So yeah, I will say with the material, Dan, do you want to give me some like nice textures to test it out with?
Yeah, I thought I emailed them to you, but
Oh, really?
I'll check again. In fact, what I'll do after the meeting is that like I'll talk to Justin and we'll just like hang on to the, and I'll upload them directly to the. So I need to give you guys the models of the exploding the chunks. So I'll be uploading to the server.
Cool.
Cool. Sounds good, you guys. I'm going to continue working on the designs for the UI, even if we're not going to use them for a while. I want that completely squared away before we start tinkering with the main menu, so there's less ambiguities. Cool. Alrighty, guys. Well, I'll let you guys go, and if I don't talk to you before then, happy holidays, and I will see you guys next Monday, if not sooner.
Yes.
Sounds good. Nice seeing you guys.
Yep. Nice seeing you guys.
Yep. See ya.
Later.